Libertarian U.S. Senate candidate Sean Haugh, welcome to North Carolina Now.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Plenty of issues to discuss, so let's just jump on into
Okay.
them. Of course, increasing jobs and employment are very hot topics. What do you think needs to be done to perhaps stimulate our economy?
Well, I believe that small business really is the big generator of jobs and economic growth. I think that we give a lot of corporate welfare out at the federal and at the state levels to favor large corporations over smaller innovators. So I'd like to see a lot of the regulations removed from people, from entrepreneurs and people who are trying to start their own businesses to be able to not only generate their own wealth and their own jobs, but to create more innovation for Americans in all of our local communities.
Let's talk education, because throughout the country, we have a problem with teacher recruitment and retainment. What do you think needs to be done to help promote that?
Well, I've talked to a lot of teachers, and they tell me that the big issue for them is lack of control of the classroom, that they took the job idealistically because they wanted to teach children, and that's wonderful, but that generally only lasts about 3 years because they find out that most of their job is pushing a lot of paper and conforming to a lot of rules that take away their creativity and their ability to give individual instruction. So instead of having, from a federal government perspective, instead of having a top-down, one-size-fits-all approach, I'd rather be able to get a lot of those regulations out of the way to empower teachers to be able to do their jobs again.
What about salary? What role does it play?
Well, I think it plays an important role, and this is more of a state issue, and it's up to the General Assembly to set those. I do find it very interesting now that they feel like they've given teachers a big raise, and yet teachers don't seem to be rallying around it so much. And one of the parts of it is longevity pay. I think they made a mistake to cut that out because if you want to keep teachers for a lifetime of service, then they need to be rewarded for it.
Let's talk students a little bit, because you have students go all the way through the educational system. They graduate from institutions of higher learning with a high debt load in some cases. Any thoughts to try to reduce that and make education more affordable for students?
Well, one of the big problems is the federal government has flooded so much money into the higher education system, and it's just a basic fact of economics that if you make all of that money available, the consumers of it, the colleges and universities in this case, are going to suck it up, and that's greatly increased the cost of education. I went to a nice liberal arts college, Tufts University, in the early 80s, and tuition for me then was about $8,000. And since then, I think a lot of it has to do with the federal government policy of putting so much money into it that if we can change course in that direction, I think it would reduce the costs. And also, I think a lot of student debt should be forgiven. I think it is really unfair to sell people on this idea that you need to go to college and then find out they're really only trained to work in a coffee shop, and saddled with all this debt. I guess that's it.
Well, looking at health care, what do you think needs to be done to ensure that everyone has affordable health care?
Well, again, I think that federal government involvement in healthcare has driven the prices up quite a lot. I have a video on this topic which mostly talks about Medicaid reform, and you can see all my videos on my YouTube channel and on my website, SeanHaugh.com. But one thing that completely gets lost in making political issues out of Medicaid reform and health care is that the end users are forgotten. I once worked at Duke Hospital, and I had to work with people on Medicare and Medicaid who were going through bureaucratic hell just to be able to keep up with most substandard benefits that we offer in this country. I do want to see more innovation from the free market and the federal government to get out of the way to allow that to happen. It's already happening to a large degree despite federal regulation of health care, but it always has to be judged against, are we really reducing human suffering? Are we really giving the people who need affordable choices more options and the ability to take advantage of them?
Renewable energy, or just talking about energy in general, what is your position on renewable energy, discovering renewable energy, or even fracking for that bunch?
Well, this is another area where the federal government has really gamed things in favor of the oil companies, the automobile companies, and in order for something like fracking to happen, it requires a significant level of protection from liability for both state and federal government. Meanwhile, there are a lot of restrictions on entrepreneurs' ability to develop renewable energy. You look over in Europe, which has a different policy, and they get a lot of their energy from solar power. Again, it's an area where if the federal government stopped picking winners and losers in the energy industry and allowed for innovation, we could have a lot cheaper, everybody could have a lot cheaper access rather to renewable energy, and we can get away from oil and gas.
And in talking about things being cheaper, one of the things going on in North Carolina involves seasonal workers who are undocumented immigrants. What would you do when it comes to, say, immigration reform?
Well, we need to look at the root causes of why are so many people wanting to move to the United States, especially from countries south of the border. And it's war. We have the war on drugs going on in Mexico and in other countries, and we also interfere in the affairs of other countries and destabilize them. If the only thing we did was to end the war on drugs, we would immediately break the power of the Mexican drug cartels that are causing so much violence and chaos in Mexico. We could put Mexico back on the path of peace and prosperity, and then it would be more attractive for people to stay in Mexico and build something for themselves and their families, and people who've already come here would have reason to go back. So I don't think it's productive to attack the people who have come here simply to try to seek a better life for themselves and their families. We need to look at what are we doing and what could we change to restore stability to not only our country, but all of those countries as well.
You had mentioned war. Now, especially North Carolina being a military state, what are your thoughts on the military's involvement, especially in overseas conflicts?
Well, that's the main issue of my campaign, is to stop all war. We're reduced to the absurdity now of bombing our own weapons in Iraq that have been taken and are being used against us by this Islamic State group. We have, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And we have been flooding the world, and especially the Middle East, with weapons, making sure everybody's armed to the teeth with our weapons and our training, and we're involved in direct warfare and drone warfare ourselves over there. And this only continues to create greater crises, greater enemies, with better organization and better ability to strike at the United States and our allies there. So I really believe that Washington and Jefferson said it best when they counseled us to have free trade with all and entangling alliances with none. That if we stopped shipping weapons to everybody in the world, we stopped our own wars, brought our own troops home, and concentrated on the defense of the United States, and instead approached the world with free trade, we could be the beacon of peace and prosperity and freedom that we used to be.
Libertarian U.S. Senate candidate Sean Haugh, thank you so very much for stopping by and sharing your insights with us.
Well, thanks so much for having me. I enjoyed it.